Are they thinking of you? That's the question, isn't it? The one that arrives in the quiet moments when you're alone with your phone, when you're drifting off to sleep, when a song plays and suddenly they're there in your mind again. You wonder if the feeling moves both ways. You scan your day for signs. A text that never came, a name that appeared somewhere unexpected, a sudden warmth in your chest that felt like more than memory. And you ask yourself, does this mean something? Are they thinking of me right now? I want to tell you something that may surprise you, something that will shift the entire ground beneath that question. The question itself, as innocent as it seems, is a trap. Not because the answer doesn't matter, but because the way you're asking it reveals where you're living, and where you're living determines everything. You see, when you look outward for signs that someone is thinking of you, you are standing in the state of separation. You are assuming they are over there, distant, independent, and you are here, waiting, wondering, hoping for a bridge to form between you. But Neville tells us again and again, there is no one out there. Consciousness is the only reality. The world you see, the people you encounter, the responses you receive, all of it is yourself pushed out. So if you want to know whether your specific person is thinking of you, the real question is not what signs you should look for. The real question is, who are you being? What state are you occupying? Because I promise you, the moment you stop looking for signs and start living from the state of the wish fulfilled, you will not need signs. You will have the thing itself. Welcome. If this is your first time here, this is a place where we explore the teachings of Neville Goddard, not as theory, not as philosophy, but as a practical mystical law you can test tonight. And if you've been here before, welcome back. You're here because some part of you knows this is true. You've tasted it, or you've heard the echo of it, and you're ready to go deeper. Today we're going to talk about what it really means to ask if someone is thinking of you. We're going to dismantle the habit of searching for signs, because that habit keeps you locked in lack. And then, more importantly, we're going to talk about where Neville directs your attention instead toward the state, toward the feeling, toward the assumption that makes the thing inevitable. By the end of this, you won't be asking if they're thinking of you. You'll know what it feels like to live as though they already are, and you'll understand why that distinction changes everything. Let's begin. When you ask whether someone is thinking of you, what you're really asking is, am I loved? Am I wanted? Am I seen? These are not small questions. They live at the center of the human heart. And because they matter so much, we become desperate for evidence. We begin to read the world like a text, searching for clues, signs, synchronicities. You see their name on a license plate. You hear a song they loved. A mutual friend mentions them out of nowhere. And you think, that must mean something. Maybe they're thinking of me. Maybe the universe is telling me we're connected. Now, I'm not going to tell you that signs don't happen. They do. Neville himself spoke of strange bridges of incident, of how your assumption externalizes itself in ways you could not have planned. But here is the critical point. Signs are effects, not causes. They are the result of a state you are already occupying. If you're looking for signs to tell you whether your desire is coming, you've reversed the order. You're treating the outer world as the authority, as if it can inform you of a truth you don't yet possess within. And in doing so, you remain in the state of waiting, of uncertainty, of needing proof. Let me say it plainly. When you look for signs, you are living in the question, and the question is a state. It is the state of I don't know. It is the state of I don't know. It is the state of I hope, but I'm not sure. And that state, that consciousness, is what you impress upon the subjectivity of your world. So what do you get reflected back? More uncertainty, more waiting, more reasons to keep looking. Neville said, you do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. If you are someone who is waiting for signs that your person is thinking of you, then you will continue to be someone who waits. The outer world will conform to that inner state, because it has no choice. It is not an independent force. It is a mirror. Think about it this way. Imagine someone who is deeply loved, who is certain of their partner's devotion. Do they lie awake at night wondering if they're being thought of? Do they check their phone anxiously, counting the hours since the last text? No. They rest in the knowledge. They assume it. And because they assume it, they experience it. Their partner calls. Their partner reaches out. The love flows freely. because there is no inner dam of doubt blocking it. Now imagine someone who is insecure, who believes they are not enough, who fears abandonment. They look for signs constantly. They analyze every word, every delay, every silence. They interpret the smallest absence as rejection. And what do they experience? Distance, silence, withdrawal. Not because the other person is inherently cold, but because the world is reflecting the state they are living in. The other person, in this framework, is not a separate being making free choices in a vacuum. They are part of your consciousness, responding to your assumptions about them, about yourself, about the nature of your relationship. This is what Neville means when he says the world is yourself pushed out. It is not metaphor. It is mechanical. Your outer world is always, always perfectly reflecting your inner state. So when you ask, are they thinking of me? What you're really revealing is, I am not certain that they are. And that uncertainty, that lack, is the state you are broadcasting, and so it is the state that you experience. You see the trap now, don't you? The very act of looking for signs is the affirmation of their absence. It is the declaration, I do not have this. I need the world to show me I am loved. And the world, ever faithful, says, of course, you don't have it. Keep looking. So what is the answer? Should you ignore signs altogether? Should you stop noticing synchronicities? Stop feeling the little shiver of connection when something reminds you of them? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. Stop giving signs the power to tell you what is true. Stop waiting for the outside to confirm the inside. Reverse the order. Decide what is true within yourself first, and let the world catch up. This is where Neville's teaching becomes both simpler and more radical than anything else you've encountered. He does not tell you to manifest signs. He does not tell you to look for evidence. He tells you to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. So instead of asking, are they thinking of me, you assume, they are thinking of me. You assume, they are thinking of me. They adore me. I am loved. You do not assume it because you have proof. You assume it because you have decided it is true. And you persist in that assumption not for a day, not until you check your phone and see nothing, but until the assumption becomes natural, until it becomes who you are. Let me take you deeper into this. Neville often spoke about states. He said that all of life is the movement from state to state, and that each state has its own sensory vividness, its own thoughts, its own circumstances. When you occupy a state, you experience its fruits. When you vacate a state, those fruits disappear. So there is a state where you are loved. There is a state where your person adores you, thinks of you constantly, reaches for you without hesitation. That state exists right now, just as real as the state of doubt you may currently occupy. The question is not whether that state exists. The question is, are you occupying it? And how do you occupy it? Through assumption, through feeling, through daring to claim it before the world has shown you a single shred of evidence. Neville says, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and continue in that assumption. And that assumption, though denied by your senses, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Do you hear that? Though denied by your senses. He is telling you that the outer world may scream the opposite. They may not be texting you. They may seem cold, distant, uninterested. It does not matter. If you persist in the assumption, if you live in the feeling that they are yours, that they are thinking of you, that they are drawn to you, then the outer world must conform. It has no choice. You are not trying to make them think of you. You are not sending energy, casting spells, or using tricks. You are simply occupying the state where they already do. And from that state they must, because they are not separate from you. They are part of the same consciousness. They are playing a role in the drama of your mind, and the role they play is determined by the state you occupy. Let me give you an example. A story I've heard echoed in so many of Neville's lectures and in the testimonies of those who've lived this law. A woman was in love with a man who had left her. He was cold. He was clear. He wanted nothing to do with her. She was devastated. She spent weeks looking for signs, checking his social media, asking mutual friends, replaying their last conversation, wondering if maybe, just maybe, he thought of her at all. Then she encountered Neville's teaching, and she stopped looking. She stopped asking. She went inward. Every night, before sleep, she imagined a scene. He was with her, his arms around her, whispering that he had never stopped thinking of her, that he was sorry, that he loved her. She felt the relief, the warmth, the rightness of that scene. She did not do it once and wait for a text. She did it night after night until the scene felt more real than her empty bed, until the feeling of being loved by him was her dominant state. And then, without warning, he reached out. He called. He confessed he hadn't been able to stop thinking about her. He wanted to try again. She did not manifest a sign. She manifested the thing, and the thing brought with it all the signs she could have ever wanted. Do you see? The signs followed. They did not lead. She did not wait for a sign to tell her it was safe to assume. She assumed first, and reality rearranged itself to reflect that assumption. This is the mechanics of consciousness. This is the law Neville lived and taught and proved again and again. And it works whether you believe it or not, because it is not a belief system. It is a description of how consciousness operates. So when you ask, how do I know if they're thinking of me? The answer is, it doesn't matter what they're doing in this moment. What matters is what you are assuming, because your assumption is the seed, and the outer world is the harvest. If you plant the seed of I am loved, you will reap love. If you plant the seed of I am uncertain, you will reap uncertainty. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but I have assumed it. I've visualized. I've affirmed. I've tried to feel it. And nothing has changed. They still haven't reached out. So maybe I'm doing it wrong. Or maybe it doesn't work for me. Let me speak to this gently, but clearly. If nothing has changed, it is because you have not truly occupied the state. You have visited it. You have tried it on. But you have not lived in it. The moment you opened your eyes and checked your phone and saw nothing, you vacated the state. You returned to doubt, to waiting, to looking for signs. And so you experienced the fruit of doubt, not the fruit of certainty. Neville said, you must make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Present fact. Not future hope. I'll feel it when I see it. You must feel it now before you see it, and you must persist in that feeling until the inner becomes outer. This requires discipline. It requires a kind of inner stubbornness, a refusal to let the outer world dictate your inner state. It requires that you stop reacting and start creating. You stop asking the world what is true, and you start telling the world what is true. And here is the beautiful, terrible truth. The world will test you. It will give you every reason to return to doubt. They won't text. They'll seem indifferent. They'll post something that makes you spiral. And in those moments, you have a choice. You can take that as evidence that your assumption isn't working, or you can understand that the outer world is simply playing out the old state, the old assumption, the momentum of what was, and you can gently, firmly return to the state of the wish fulfilled. This is the practice, this is the work. Not looking for signs, not waiting for proof, but occupying the state, again and again, until there is no gap between who you are and what you desire. Let me share something Neville said in one of his later lectures. He said, do not ask yourself if you are worthy. Do not ask if it is possible. Do not ask if it is possible. Do not ask if they want you. Dare to assume you already have it, and walk in that assumption as though it were solid ground beneath your feet. Dare to assume. That's the phrase. Not hope to assume. Not try to assume. It feels relief. It takes courage to assume something the world has not yet shown you. It takes courage to feel loved when you have no evidence of it. But that courage is the price of entry into the state, and the state is the only thing that matters. So let's talk about where Neville tells you to put your attention. Not on signs, not on the behavior of your specific person, not on the behavior of your specific person, not on the outer world at all. He tells you to put your attention on the feeling, on the state, on the state. He asks you to imagine, not as a child imagines, not as fantasy, not as escape, but as God imagines, as consciousness imagining into form, because that is what you are. You are not a body waiting for love to come to you from outside. You are consciousness itself, and consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, the world, your person, your circumstances, is consciousness, is the only reality. Everything else, the world, your person, your circumstances is pushed out. So when you imagine, you are not wishing. You are not daydreaming. You are planting seeds in the ground of awareness, and those seeds will become the harvest of your experience. Neville's method is simple. He calls it the state akin to sleep. You know this moment, it is that soft, drowsy space just before you drift off, when the mind is quiet, when the barriers between conscious and subconscious dissolve. In that state, you imagine a scene that implies the wish fulfilled, not the desire itself, but the result of it, the end. So if you want to know that your person is thinking of you, if you want them obsessed with you, reaching for you, unable to stop thinking of you, then you do not imagine them thinking of you. You imagine a scene that would only happen if they already were. You imagine them saying, I couldn't stop thinking about you. You imagine them saying, I couldn't stop thinking about you. You imagine their rhymes around you. You imagine the relief in their voice, the tenderness, the confession of how much they missed you. You imagine the relief in their voice, the tenderness, the confession of how much they missed you. You hear their voice. You feel their touch. You see their eyes. You loop this scene gently until it takes on a feeling of reality, and then you fall asleep in that feeling. You do not do this once. You do this every night until the feeling becomes natural, until the scene feels more real than the empty bed, until you no longer need to force it because it is simply where you live. And during the day, when you check your phone and see silence, you do not panic. You do not spiral. You gently return to the feeling. You remind yourself, it is done. They are mine. I am loved. You do not argue with the outer world. You simply refuse to accept its current testimony as final. This is what Neville means by living in the end. You do not live in the middle, in the waiting, in the hope. You live in the end, in the result, in the assumption that it is already yours. And from that place, from that state, the bridge of incidents unfolds. The signs come. The texts come. The reconciliation comes. But they come because you stopped waiting for them. They come because you assumed they already had. Now some of you might be thinking, but isn't this denial? Isn't this denial? Isn't this ignoring reality? And Neville would say, what reality? The reality of your senses, which is always the past, always the result of what you have already assumed. Or the reality of your senses, which is the cause, which is always present, always creating. You see, the outer world is always a lag. It is always showing you the fruit of yesterday's assumptions. So when you look at your current circumstances and say, this is reality, you're looking at the past. You are looking at the harvest of old seeds. And if you continue to water those seeds with your attention, with your belief, with your emotional agreement, then you will continue to harvest the same fruit. But if you turn away from the outer world, not in bitterness, not in resistance, but in calm knowing, and you plant a new seed, a new assumption, then you will reap a new harvest. It is law. It is inevitable. Neville said, an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Do you hear the promise in that? It does not matter if your assumption contradicts what you see. It does not matter if it feels false at first. If you persist in it, it will become fact. The outer world has no choice but to conform, because the outer world is not an independent reality. It is your consciousness objectified. So stop asking if they're thinking of you. Stop looking for signs. Start assuming they are. Start looking for signs. Start assuming they are. Start living in the state where you are so deeply loved, so adored, that the question would never even occur to you. Because people who are loved don't look for signs. They rest in the knowledge. They live in the feeling. And the feeling is the secret. Let's get practical. I want to walk you through a practice you can begin tonight. This is not theory. This is something you will do, something you will test, something you will prove to yourself. Tonight, as you lie in bed, I want you to enter into the state akin to sleep. Let your body relax. Let your breathing slow. Let the day fall away. And as you begin to drift, I want you to construct a scene. A single simple scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. If your desire is to be thought of constantly by your specific person, then imagine them telling you so. Imagine you're together, maybe sitting close, and they say, I've been thinking about you all day. I can't get you out of my mind. Hear their voice. Hear the tone soft, sincere, maybe a little vulnerable. Feel the warmth of their presence. Feel your own response. Maybe you smile. Maybe you touch their hand. Maybe you just feel a deep sense of relief and rightness. Or perhaps you imagine a phone call. You see their name on your screen. You hear their voice, filled with warmth, saying, I had to call you. I couldn't stop thinking about you. You feel the flutter in your chest, the joy, the certainty that you are wanted. Choose one scene. Keep it short, just a few seconds. You don't need a whole story. You just need the moment that implies the end. And then, gently, you repeat that scene. Not with effort, not with strain, just with gentle attention. You let it play, feel it, let it loop. And as you do, the feeling will begin to grow. The feeling of being loved, of being thought of being desired. That feeling is the goal. The scene is just the vehicle. When the feeling is alive in you, when it feels real, when it feels like relief, then you let your song drift off to sleep. You fall asleep in that feeling. You do not check your phone. You do not wonder if it's working. You simply rest in the assumption and you let your subconscious do the work. This is the practice Neville gave us. This is what he called impressing the subconscious. The state akin to sleep is the moment when the subconscious is most receptive, most impressionable. What you feel in that state, you impress deeply. And what you impress, you must express. It is law. Do this tonight, and tomorrow night, and the night after. Do not look for results. Do not check for signs. Do this tonight, and tomorrow night, and the night after. Do not look for results. Do not wake up and immediately reach for your phone to see if they've texted. That is returning to the old state, the state of black. Instead, wake up and assume it is done. Go about your day in the quiet confidence that you are loved, that they are thinking of you, that it is only a matter of time before the outer reflects the inner. And when doubt arises, because it will, do not fight it. Do not shame yourself for it. Just notice it, and then gently, kindly return to the feeling. You can do this anywhere, in line at the store, in the car, at your desk. Just close your eyes for a moment, take a breath, and return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Return to the state. This is not hard, it is simple. But simple does not mean easy, because you have spent years practicing the opposite. You have practiced doubt. You have practiced note. You have practiced doubt. You have practiced noting for signs. You have practiced letting the outer world tell you who you are. Now you are practicing something new. You're practicing living from the inside out. You're practicing being the operant power in your own life. And I promise you, if you persist, if you dare to assume, if you refuse to let the old world dictate the new, then you will see the change. Not because you hoped for it, not because you deserved it, but because it is law. Let's step back for a moment. Let's talk about why this matters beyond the relationship, beyond the desire itself. You see, what Neville is teaching you is not just how to get someone to think about you. He is teaching you who you are. He's teaching you that you are not a victim of circumstance, not a passive receiver of fate, not a small, powerless being hoping for love to find you. You are consciousness. You are the creator of your experience. You are God, imagining. This is not blasphemy. This is scripture. I have said, ye are gods. That is not metaphor. That is identity. You are not separate from God, hoping God will grant your wish. You are God, awaking to your own power, learning to imagine deliberately instead of by default. And when you understand this, when you truly feel it, then the question of whether someone is thinking of you becomes almost trivial. Not because you don't care, but because you don't care, but because you realize you are the one deciding. You are the one evoking the state that makes it so. This shifts everything. It means you are never at the mercy of another person's free will, because there is no other person. There is only you, imagining. They are part of your consciousness, reflecting back to you the state you occupy. Change the state, and they must change, not because you are controlling them, but because they were never separate from you to begin with. This is the mystical truth beneath the practical teaching. The world is not happening to you. The world is happening from you. Every person, every event, every circumstance is consciousness pushed out, and consciousness is yours to direct. So when you step into this teaching, when you begin to live it, you are stepping into your power. You are stepping into the truth of who you are. And yes, you may begin with a specific person. You may begin with a desire for love, for reconciliation, for connection. But what you will discover is so much more. You will discover that you are not small. You are not limited. You are not dependent on the whims of the outer world. You are the creator, and the life you live, the love you experience, the world you see, all of it, is the outpicturing of your inner state. This is the gift Neville gives us, not a set of techniques, not a law of attraction, but a revelation of identity, a remembering of who we truly are. And when you remember, when you truly know, then you stop looking for signs. You stop waiting for permission. You stop wondering if you are loved. You simply decide that you are, and you watch as the world rearranges itself to prove you right. So let me leave you with this. Tonight you are not going to ask if your specific person is thinking of you. You are not going to look for signs. You are not going to check your phone with anxiety, hoping for evidence. Tonight you are going to assume, you are going to imagine, you are going to assume, you are going to enable arise. You are going to enable arise. You are going to enteta. You are going to enter the state. You are going to feel what it feels like to be adored, to be thought of constantly, to be the one they can't stop reaching for. And you are going to fall asleep in that feeling. You are going to let it sink into your subjectivity. You are going to trust the law, trust yourself, trust the process. And then you are going to let it go. Not because you don't care, but because you don't care, but because you know it is done. You are not waiting. You are living from the end. This is the teaching. This is the way. And if you walk it, if you truly walk it, then I promise you, you will not need to ask if they are thinking of you. You will know, because they will tell you, because they will show you, because they will show you, because the outer world will reflect the inner truth you have claimed. Are they thinking of you? Yes. Because you have decided they are, because you have decided the state where they must, because you are not a powerless being hoping for love. You are consciousness itself, imagining love into form. So go, assume it, feel it, live it, and watch as the world becomes the mirror of your own beautiful, deliberate imagining.